Ladies and gentlemen, in life we're constantly bombarded with situations, challenges, and even people that trigger our emotions. It could be an unexpected problem at work, a heated conversation with a colleague, or a situation that throws our entire day off course. The natural tendency is to react, often impulsively driven by emotions and a need to regain control. But today, I want to challenge you to break that pattern. Instead of reacting, I'm going to share with you how you can respond in a way that will not only serve your long-term goals, but also help you grow and excel under pressure. The difference between reacting and responding is not just in words, it's in the mindset behind them. Reacting is instinctual. It's often emotional, hasty, and driven by the moment. Responding, on the other hand, is deliberate, thoughtful, and comes from a place of clarity and control. If you want to change the game in your life and your career, mastering the art of response over reaction is one of the most powerful tools at your disposal. In any challenging or high-pressure situation, our first instinct is often to react. Whether it's a stressful email, a difficult conversation, or a sudden crisis, the impulse is to act immediately, to resolve the discomfort as quickly as possible. However, in the rush to resolve things, we often make decisions we later regret. The most crucial first step to handling chaos or pressure effectively is to pause. Taking a moment to breathe before responding is a simple but transformative technique that can dramatically improve your ability to handle any situation with clarity and control. When we feel stressed or threatened, our bodies enter a fight or flight mode driven by the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotional responses. In these moments we don't think clearly, instead we react emotionally without considering the long-term effects of our actions. The pause allows us to override this automatic emotional reaction. By taking a few seconds to stop, we activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, planning, and decision-making. This shift helps us regain control of our thoughts so we can respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. One of the most effective ways to break the cycle of reactive behavior is to incorporate deep breathing during your pause. Deep breathing is scientifically proven to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps calm the body and reduce stress. When you take slow, deliberate breaths, you lower your heart rate, relax your muscles, and clear your mind. This physiological response is invaluable, as it gives you the mental space to gather your thoughts and make a more informed decision. It's a technique used by athletes, performers, and high achievers around the world. And for good reason. It's one of the simplest ways to regain your composure in moments of pressure. Another powerful benefit of pausing is that it prevents knee-jerk reactions. In the heat of the moment, we often feel like we must act immediately to regain control or avoid discomfort. However, quick reactive decisions rarely take into account the bigger picture. A pause creates a gap between stimulus and response, enabling you to detach from the situation emotionally. During this pause, you can ask yourself key questions like, what is my ultimate goal in this situation? How will my response impact the long-term outcome? What's the most constructive way to approach this? By slowing down, you give yourself the chance to assess the situation objectively instead of being driven by emotions. This moment of pause also gives you the opportunity to reflect on past experiences. Often, when we face challenges, we are tempted to act based on past emotional responses, such as anger or frustration. However, these responses may not serve us in the current situation. The pause allows you to take a step back and recall times when you handled similar situations effectively or times when you didn't. Reflecting on your past actions helps you avoid repeating mistakes and equips you with the wisdom to approach the present challenge more effectively. By pausing, you're essentially tapping into your own experience and using it to guide your response. Lastly, the pause gives you the ability to choose your response deliberately. Life often throws curveballs at us, but we don't have to let external events dictate our behavior. By choosing to pause, you take back the power to control how you react. This space enables you to choose a response that aligns with your values, your long-term goals, and your sense of purpose. Instead of reacting out of fear, frustration, or anger, you respond with clarity, empathy, and intention. In doing so, you maintain a sense of dignity, professionalism, and emotional strength, even in the most trying circumstances. Reframing a situation is a powerful tool in the art of responding rather than reacting. When a challenge or setback arises, our natural instinct is often to view it through a lens of negativity. We might see it as a problem, an obstacle, or a threat. However, the key to transforming how we respond is to change the way we perceive the situation. Reframing is about shifting your perspective so that instead of seeing a stressful scenario as something to be avoided or fought against, you see it as an opportunity for growth, learning, or even an advantage. By reframing, you take control over how the situation affects you, and you regain your power to respond thoughtfully. The process of reframing begins with awareness. In many cases, we react emotionally without stopping to examine why we feel the way we do. When a situation arises, especially one that feels challenging, pause for a moment to recognize your emotional response. Are you feeling frustrated, anxious, or angry? Acknowledging these emotions is the first step toward reframing. Instead of letting these emotions dictate your response, challenge yourself to reframe them by asking, what is this situation teaching me? Or how can I use this moment to grow? By posing these questions, you begin to shift from a reactive, emotional mindset to a more constructive, growth-oriented one. Reframing is also about recognizing that every situation has multiple perspectives. In the face of adversity, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeing things from only one angle, usually a negative one. However, by deliberately choosing to look at the situation from a different point of view, you can find new opportunities and solutions. For instance, if a client cancels an important meeting, instead of viewing it as a setback, reframe it as an opportunity to catch up on other tasks, reevaluate your strategy, or even take a well-deserved break. This shift in perception not only reduces stress, but also helps you identify hidden opportunities where others might only see obstacles. An important aspect of reframing is recognizing that setbacks and challenges are often temporary, and they don't define you or your future success. When something goes wrong, we tend to view it as a permanent flaw or failure. We might think, I've failed, and this setback means I'm not good enough, or I'm never going to be able to succeed because of this mistake. Reframing these moments involves understanding that failure is a natural part of the learning process. Instead of labeling yourself as a failure, see each setback as a stepping stone toward success. You can ask yourself, what can I learn from this mistake? Or how will this experience make me stronger? This shift in thinking helps you detach your identity from the situation, allowing you to move forward without being weighed down by self-doubt or negative emotions. Another crucial element of reframing is detaching from the story we often tell ourselves about the situation. When something goes wrong, we naturally start to create a narrative around it. "This always happens to me, nothing ever goes right," or "This is the worst thing that could have happened." These stories amplify the negative emotions associated with the situation and make it harder to respond effectively. Reframing involves recognizing that these stories are just that, stories, and they don't have to define the outcome of the situation. Instead of continuing with the narrative of doom and failure, choose to rewrite the story with a more empowering perspective. Instead of thinking, "This is a disaster," reframe it as, "This is a challenge, but I can handle it and learn from it." The power of reframing also lies in its ability to reduce stress and enhance emotional resilience. When we view challenges through a negative lens, our stress levels rise and our emotional responses become more reactive. By reframing a situation, we immediately lower the emotional stakes and take a more neutral stance. For example, if a project deadline is pushed back unexpectedly, instead of viewing it as a sign of failure or incompetence, reframe it as an opportunity to improve the project or refine your ideas. This simple shift in perception reduces the emotional burden and helps you maintain a sense of calm and control. In the long term, regularly practicing reframing builds emotional resilience, making it easier to face new challenges without becoming overwhelmed. One of the most powerful shifts you can make when responding rather than reacting is to focus exclusively on what you can control in any given situation. Life, by nature, is unpredictable. Circumstances can change without warning, people may act in ways we don't expect, and unforeseen challenges often arise. However, within every circumstance, there is always something that remains under our control: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. By deliberately choosing to focus on these elements, you take back the power that would otherwise be lost in reacting impulsively to external factors. It's easy to get caught up in focusing on things beyond your control. For example, you might be frustrated by a colleague's behavior, a market downturn, or a decision made by management that directly impacts your work. These are all factors that can trigger a reaction, often based on frustration or helplessness. But the truth is, the more energy you spend focusing on things that you cannot influence, the more powerless and stressed you will feel. Instead, when you consciously shift your focus to what you can control, your own actions, your attitude, your response to the situation, you empower yourself to take constructive action, no matter how challenging the circumstances may be. This focus on what you can control starts with your mindset. How you choose to perceive a situation has a profound effect on how you respond. You can't control how someone else behaves, but you can control how you interpret their behavior. For example, if a colleague criticizes your work, you may feel insulted or defensive, but instead of reacting emotionally, you can reframe the situation. You can choose to view their criticism as constructive feedback that offers an opportunity for growth. By choosing to see things differently, you take control over your emotional response and decide how you will act moving forward. This shift in perception can have a tremendous impact on your productivity and emotional well-being. Another important element of focusing on what you can control is taking proactive action. Often when faced with challenges, people default to a passive stance, waiting for things to improve, hoping that circumstances will change on their own. However, the key to effective response is recognizing that you can take small intentional actions that move you forward, even if the larger situation is out of your hands. For example, if you're dealing with a project that's falling behind, focusing on what you can control means taking charge of the aspects that are within your reach, such as adjusting your schedule, prioritizing key tasks, or communicating effectively with your team. Taking proactive steps shifts you from a reactive mindset to a solution-oriented one, allowing you to feel empowered rather than defeated. In addition to taking action, focusing on what you can control, it involves managing your emotional state. Our emotions can often feel like they're running the show, especially in moments of stress or conflict. But by focusing on what you can control, you begin to recognize that your emotional state is within your power to manage. This might mean practicing techniques like deep breathing, grounding yourself in the present moment, or reminding yourself that your emotions are not permanent and don't define you. You can choose to take a step back from heightened emotions and create space for rational thinking. When you're in control of your emotions, you're far less likely to act out of anger, fear, or frustration, and more likely to respond with calm and intention. Focusing on what you can control also means recognizing the limits of your influence and letting go of the need to control everything. Trying to control every variable, every person, and every outcome can lead to frustration and burnout. Accepting that there are aspects of life that are outside your control doesn't mean you're passive or defeated. It simply means you're realistic. For example, in a workplace scenario, you can't control the decisions made by leadership, but you can control how you respond to those decisions. You can focus on being adaptable, seeking feedback, and continually improving in areas that you can influence. By doing so, you maintain a sense of agency and reduce the stress that comes with trying to control the uncontrollable. Finally, focusing on what you can control builds a sense of personal responsibility. When you focus on the things you can influence, you stop blaming external factors for your situation. This sense of ownership fosters a mindset of accountability and growth. You no longer look to external circumstances as reasons for your stress or challenges, but instead take responsibility for how you approach them. This mindset of control and responsibility empowers you to stay in the driver's seat of your life. It allows you to react to challenges with resilience, knowing that while you can't control everything, you are always in control of your response. When we are faced with stressful or challenging situations, our words can either calm the storm or escalate it. The language we use, both in our inner dialogue and in our conversations with others, has a profound impact on how we perceive the situation and how others respond. Words are powerful tools. They can either create connection and understanding or sow division and conflict. This is why choosing your words carefully is one of the most effective ways to ensure that you are responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Your words are not just a reflection of your thoughts, but also the vehicle through which you shape your environment and influence those around you. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to default to defensive or reactive language. For example, if someone criticizes your work, you might instinctively respond with phrases like, "That's not true," or "You don't understand." While this may feel like a natural defense mechanism, such language typically escalates the situation and prevents productive dialogue. Choosing your words carefully, on the other hand, involves pausing to assess the impact of your language before you speak. Instead of reacting, you can respond with a more composed, thoughtful approach, such as saying, "I see your point. Let's explore how I can improve." By doing this, you diffuse potential tension and open the door for constructive conversation. When you choose your words deliberately, you not only control the tone of the conversation, but also set the direction for its outcome. Communication is a two-way street, and our words influence how others respond to us. For example, in a professional environment, if you find yourself in conflict with a colleague, Choosing words that emphasize collaboration and problem solving, such as "let's work together to find a solution," can shift the conversation from one of blame or accusation to one of teamwork and mutual respect. Your words can inspire cooperation, calm tension, and bring clarity to complex issues. The more carefully you choose your words, the more influence you have over the direction of the discussion, ensuring that it stays focused on resolving the issue rather than fueling emotions. Your words also reveal your emotional state, and this can affect how others perceive you. If you respond with harsh or aggressive language, people may see you as hostile or confrontational, regardless of your intentions. On the other hand, if you use language that is calm, respectful, and measured, others are more likely to view you as composed and in control. This is particularly important in leadership situations where your words set the example for others. Leaders who choose their words carefully create an environment of trust and respect, fostering a sense of calm even in times of chaos. By being mindful of how you speak, you communicate strength, empathy, and emotional intelligence, which are crucial qualities for building strong relationships and leading effectively. In addition to the words we use with others, the language we use with ourselves is equally important. Self-talk is a powerful tool that shapes our mindset and influences our emotional responses. In moments of stress or failure, many of us engage in negative self-talk, thinking thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never be able to handle this." These thoughts can quickly spiral into feelings of inadequacy, fear, or anxiety. However, by consciously choosing more empowering language, we can shift our internal dialogue to one that encourages growth and resilience. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," try reframing it to, "This is challenging, but I am capable of finding a solution." This simple shift in language can help you maintain a positive mindset and approach difficult situations with confidence. Choosing your words carefully also involves being intentional with your language in high-stakes situations. Whether you're negotiating a deal, handling a difficult client, or addressing a personal conflict, the words you choose can make a significant difference in how the situation unfolds. In these moments, you may feel pressure to act quickly or decisively, but taking the time to think before you speak can prevent you from making hasty or regrettable statements. For instance, instead of immediately reacting with a sharp comment in a tense situation, pause and consider the long-term consequences of your words. Ask yourself, what do I want the outcome of this conversation to be? What is the best way to express myself so I can maintain respect and move toward a positive resolution? By taking a few extra moments to choose your words with care, you ensure that your responses are more thoughtful and aligned with your goals. Finally, the power of language extends beyond just the words themselves. It's also about the tone and delivery of those words. Even the most carefully chosen words can lose their effectiveness if delivered in an aggressive, sarcastic, or dismissive tone. Conversely, even the simplest words can have a profound impact when spoken with warmth, empathy, and respect. When responding in a difficult situation, it's essential to be mindful not only of what you say, but also how you say it. Your tone should reflect the intention behind your words. A calm, steady tone conveys confidence and control, while a harsh or frantic tone may signal stress or instability. By aligning your tone with your message, you enhance the effectiveness of your communication and make it more likely that your response will be received positively. In challenging situations, one of the most important aspects of responding thoughtfully, rather than reacting impulsively, is the ability to maintain emotional distance. Emotional distance doesn't mean being cold, detached, or indifferent. It means creating a buffer between your emotional reactions and your actions so that you can make decisions from a place of clarity and rationality. This practice is especially valuable in high-stress situations where emotions can cloud judgment and lead to hasty, regrettable decisions. By maintaining emotional distance, you give yourself the opportunity to pause, evaluate, and respond with purpose, rather than letting your emotions dictate your behavior. One of the first steps in maintaining emotional distance is recognizing your triggers, those situations, words or actions that tend to provoke a strong emotional response from you. When you are aware of your emotional triggers, you can be better prepared to handle them. For example, if you know that a specific topic or person often causes you to become angry or defensive, you can anticipate this reaction and take steps to calm yourself before responding. This awareness allows you to approach the situation with a sense of control, instead of being swept up by your emotional reaction. Understanding your triggers is the first step in creating a mental and emotional buffer that enables you to pause and choose a more measured response. To further maintain emotional distance, it is essential to practice emotional awareness. When you feel your emotions rising, take a moment to check in with yourself. Ask questions like, "What am I feeling right now? Why do I feel this way?" This self-awareness helps you to understand the source of your emotions, which in turn makes it easier to detach from them. For instance, if you're feeling frustrated with a colleague's behavior, acknowledging that frustration allows you to recognize that the emotion doesn't have to control your response. You can choose to express your frustration in a constructive way, or even decide that it's not worth addressing at all. Emotional awareness gives you the space to pause and choose a response that aligns with your goals, rather than reacting impulsively to your feelings. Another powerful technique for maintaining emotional distance is to shift your perspective. Often we react emotionally because we view a situation in a certain way, through the lens of personal disappointment, unfairness, or injustice. By changing how you perceive the situation, you can reduce its emotional charge. For example, if a colleague disagrees with your idea in a meeting, you might initially feel hurt or defensive. However, reframing the situation as an opportunity to strengthen your idea, or as a chance for constructive feedback, can significantly reduce the emotional impact. By shifting your perspective, you detach from the initial emotional response and create the mental space to respond with clarity and professionalism. It is also crucial to recognize that you can control your emotional responses by creating boundaries. In emotionally charged situations, we often feel pressured to react immediately, but maintaining emotional distance involves creating a mental boundary that prevents you from being swept away by the situation. This means resisting the urge to jump into the fray, or to defend yourself before you fully process the situation. For example, if you're in a heated conversation, taking a step back and saying, "Let me think about this for a moment," not only allows you to create emotional space, but it also gives you the time you need to compose yourself and respond thoughtfully. Setting these boundaries is an important practice in emotional regulation and ensures that your responses are based on reason rather than emotional impulse. Maintaining emotional distance is also about choosing when to engage and when to step away. Sometimes the most effective response in a difficult situation is simply to remove yourself from the environment, particularly if you feel that your emotions are beginning to get the best of you. This doesn't mean avoiding the issue, but rather giving yourself the time and space you need to regain emotional balance. For example, if a conversation is escalating and you feel yourself becoming angry or upset, taking a brief pause, or even asking to continue the conversation later can be incredibly beneficial. Stepping away allows you to regain composure, reassess the situation, and return to the conversation with a clearer mind. This strategy of taking a step back can prevent rash decisions and protect your emotional well-being. Lastly, maintaining emotional distance involves developing emotional resilience over time. It's not always easy to detach from your emotions in the heat of the moment, especially if you are deeply invested in the situation or if the issue at hand feels personal. However, the more you practice emotional distance, the stronger your ability to stay calm and composed under pressure becomes. By consistently choosing to respond with mindfulness and emotional regulation, you build resilience, which makes it easier to stay detached from the intensity of future challenges. This resilience creates a buffer that enables you to face stressful situations without becoming overwhelmed by your emotions, allowing you to navigate difficult circumstances with confidence and composure. In any situation, particularly in moments of stress or chaos, acting with purpose and intention is one of the most powerful ways to avoid reactive behaviors and to take control of your response. When life throws challenges or conflicts your way, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and fall into the trap of reacting impulsively. However, responding with purpose means taking deliberate, thoughtful actions that are aligned with your long-term goals and values. Instead of letting emotions or external pressures dictate your behavior, you make conscious choices that reflect your higher objectives, ensuring that each action you take is meaningful and aligned with your overall vision. Acting with purpose starts with clarity of vision. In order to respond with intention, you must first have a clear understanding of what you want to achieve, both in the short term and long term. This clarity gives you direction in times of uncertainty. For example, in a stressful meeting or heated conversation, you can use your goals as a guiding principle. If your primary objective is to maintain positive relationships, you will choose words and actions that foster understanding rather than conflict. If your objective is to solve a specific problem, your actions will be focused on finding solutions rather than dwelling on the issue. This focus on your broader goals allows you to rise above the immediate stress and avoid knee-jerk reactions that could derail your progress. Once you have clarity, the next step in acting with purpose is to ground yourself in the present moment. Often when we're faced with challenges, our minds start racing. We may begin to worry about the future or dwell on past mistakes. These distractions can prevent us from acting with intention. Grounding yourself involves pulling your focus back to the present moment. When you are fully present, you're able to make decisions that are thoughtful, effective, and appropriate for the situation at hand. Techniques such as deep breathing, mindful awareness, or simply pausing for a few seconds before responding can help you reconnect with the present, so your actions are deliberate rather than impulsive. Another important aspect of acting with purpose is recognizing that every action has consequences. Every choice you make, no matter how small, will shape the direction of the situation. When you act with intention, you take the time to consider the potential outcomes of your actions. For example, in a workplace conflict, instead of responding hastily or emotionally, you might pause to consider how your response will affect the relationship with your colleague, the overall team dynamics, or the project's progress. By acting with foresight, you are more likely to make decisions that lead to positive outcomes and avoid reactions that could escalate the situation or cause unnecessary harm. Furthermore, acting with intention requires emotional regulation. It's natural to experience strong emotions in response to challenges, but when you allow those emotions to dictate your actions, you risk reacting in ways that you may later regret. Acting with purpose means acknowledging your emotions, but not letting them control your behavior. For instance, if you feel angry during a disagreement, you might feel an urge to raise your voice or interrupt the other person. However, by maintaining emotional control, you can make a choice to speak calmly and express your feelings respectfully. This takes practice, but it allows you to engage with others in a way that reflects your personal values and maintains your integrity. One of the most powerful tools for acting with purpose is setting intentions before taking action. This involves consciously deciding how you want to respond to a situation before you act, rather than reacting on impulse. Before entering a challenging conversation or task, take a moment to set an intention. Ask yourself, what do I want to achieve here? What is my desired outcome? For example, if you are about to have a difficult conversation with a colleague, you might set the intention to remain calm, listen actively, and work collaboratively toward a solution. This simple practice of setting your intention primes your mind to take action in alignment with your goals and values. By setting clear intentions, you ensure that your actions are guided by purpose, not by fear, frustration, or stress. Finally, consistency is key to acting with purpose over time. It's not enough to act intentionally in one situation and then revert to reactive behaviors in others. The more you practice acting with purpose, the more natural it becomes. This consistency builds your confidence and reinforces your commitment to your values and goals. Over time, you develop a habit of responding with intention in all situations, whether in personal relationships, work environments, or stressful life events. This habit of purposeful action transforms the way you navigate challenges, making it easier to maintain control, make thoughtful decisions, and remain focused on the bigger picture, no matter what circumstances arise. In a world where chaos often feels like the norm, the ability to respond instead of react is a game changer. By shifting your focus to what you can control, carefully choosing your words, maintaining emotional distance, and acting with purpose, you not only regain control over your own actions, but also create a more positive and productive environment around you. It's not about avoiding challenges or conflicts, it's about mastering the way you navigate through them. Remember, the power lies in your hands. You have the ability to transform any stressful situation into an opportunity for growth, clarity, and success. When you respond with intention, you choose not to be a victim of circumstance, but a proactive force that shapes outcomes. Each time you choose to respond thoughtfully, you reinforce your strength, resilience, and ability to remain calm in the face of chaos. So as you move forward today, remember, don't let life's challenges dictate your reactions. Take a moment, breathe, reflect, and choose the response that aligns with your values and your goals. You have the tools, the mindset, and the power to navigate any storm with calm and purpose. It's all in your hands. Thank you.